All right, welcome to episode 4 of the Healer Theory. This is going to be the holiday special Thanksgiving episode if you're in America. If you're not, this is just a regular podcast show, episode 4. I'm Icy with Icy Fire Gaming, and my co-host, Shadi. How you doing, Shadi?
Hello.
So, oh, sorry. We don't really rehearse this part. We just kind of go with it. Yeah.
It's just kind of a wing it sort of thing.
It's kind of interesting because the way the conversation flow usually happens with humans is there's these small pauses that you usually speak between, but then you don't know if the guy is done or not. So then you either prematurely talk before they finish, but then they start talking and then it just kind of messes up everything. I don't know. But
there it goes again, but yeah, we just kind of got to get past the awkward beginning and then get right into it.
Yeah. So this episode is going to be our tier list episode, just to compare all the classes and see where they rank on this lovely tier list that we have here. And I'm using my thumbnails because I like my thumbnails. They're all really attractive. And yeah, so let's just jump into this thing so we can get it done as quick as we can, but try to be as detailed if possible. I think we all know. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, we could get it done really quickly if we went my way, but we'll save that for another time.
Well, dude, your way would be like a YouTube short. It would literally just be
we could literally fit it into a YouTube short. you could make a YouTube short. Just say Shotty's class tier list. It'd be like 10 seconds.
It would be this right here: Warden at the top, no other class in comparison, and then just everybody else where they sit on the D tier.
Oh
Lord,
it looks appropriate.
But just
joining, guys.
yeah. Have a good night. Okay, how do I get these guys off this? Oh, I don't think I can.
I don't think you can.
Shit. All right. Well,
you can shuffle. You can put them all in the D list and then just shuffle them up as appropriate.
Oh, you know what?
There you go.
Yeah, just hit the reset button apparently down there. Okay, that's useful.
We're professionals.
So professional. Okay, so we'll start with the Warden because that's obviously, if anybody isn't aware, it's the best freaking class for PvP healing in general. It's got minor toughness, which is a unique buff only available on the Warden. And it comes naturally with what you do as a PvP healer, right? You heal and you get this unique buff. You can get it from a set that gives minor toughness, but that's like the only other exception for that particular unique buff. It's got a bunch of hots. It's got a bunch of self-survivability, a lot of options that you can incorporate into your bar setup to adapt to any sort of situation. One of my favorites being Shimmering Shield. Okay, if you're being peppered with a ton of projectiles and there's a lot of sorks in your BG match or whatever, Shimmering Shield is a fantastic ability that no other class can compare like their defensive kit to in a way. And I guess that'll be my pitch for right now. What do you got to say about the Warden, Shadi?
Well, I would agree that Warden has the best kit for a healer. It has some of the best defensive skills in the game, like the Shimmering Shield that you said. That alone will mitigate the builds in the game, especially Nightblades.
Mm-hmm.
Their bow spec can't hit you. All the ranged Warden builds that people like to play nowadays, that won't be able to hit you. It's really versatile in other areas, such as having a good movement ability like wings. It has naturally high HP because of the passive. It has the best heals in the game and heals that complement that high HP like Polar Wind.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of healing over time abilities that naturally fits into its kit. It's just the apex of healers just by the way they designed it. There's no debate.
There really isn't. And in addition to Shimmering Shield, the wings, the Deceptive Predator, oh my god. That alone is why I think for Wardens, they, when we put all the other classes in here, we're just gonna leave at least at a minimum the A tier like as a spacer for everything else, because Deceptive Predator is so freaking strong. Because when you look at all the other classes, they all have to run Race Against Time as a equivalent speed buff that gives you the CC immunity for snares and immobilizations, whereas with the Warden, they get that from their Deceptive Predator now from one of the recent patch updates. I think it was update 35. And this is the best part, it also provides minor evasion, which you cannot get anywhere else in the game. So now, especially for like the 1-bar setups, just having that skill on your bar will already give you 10% damage mitigation to AoE abilities, which is huge.
Yeah, alongside your ult gen passive and your recovery passives and a small heal on top of that every time you cast it. But yeah.
Oh my god, dude! Like just naming all of the Warden benefits is just so overwhelming because it's so good.
Yeah, I mean, it's been known for a long time. Even before Warden got buffed, it was still the best healing class in the game. Before Deceptive Predator, before Polar Wind, it was still the best healer in the game.
Jesus.
The gap was not so significant that you couldn't play the other healers. The problem has become that Warden got better, and the other healers actually got worse. And so that gap became, just unbelievably big.
Yeah, that is a good point. The Warden did get better, and then everything else either didn't get changed at all or got worse. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. I think that kind of covers it for the Warden. Warden is busted as hell. They've got so many wonderful things that fit naturally with the PvP healer playstyle. Anything else?
No, I mean, we both only talk about Wardens in build videos or any other discussion for a reason.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we kind of finished it early. Anything else you want
No, I don't see any other healing classes. Let me just cover the lower part of the screen. No, I just see the Warden.
Dude, part of me wants to just end the video right here.
No.
Okay. So
is that next on the?
This is the Sork here. This is my Sork. So I think. Okay, so I would probably put the Sork B or C, not D. I don't know, B or C. You know what? I think I'd put the Sork in C. I think for me. Where would you put the Sork?
I might put it in B. So my justification for that, since I'm giving it actually a higher score than you, is that the Sork is a good kite healer. It's got utility that is outside of just healing with negate and streak. Streak is something that you're going to use regardless because it's a defensive offensive that you're going to be using for mobility. It has a very powerful heal. I mean, the bird does have a weakness, but using the bird is still not a bad idea, just because it has a similar power scale to most of the other really strong heals that we like to talk about. But it hits 2 targets in a radius around the bird. I think it's like 28 too. It goes through walls as well. And it's just a good utility healer. And you can, we're talking about pure healers, but you can actually add a little damage to it as well if you wanted to and still get good performance.
I think you could also throw on Endless Fury, right? For kill securing as well.
So I used to have a build that I played on the Sork, and it was like a Sork. So this was back when I used a lot of double buff sets. I did a buff set on the front and back. And there were games where a lot of times I'd go 3.5 million healing on it, which, we're not really about the numbers, but I would also get 1.5 million damage as well. And I was assisting the team in getting kills while also healing them for a comparable amount to another normal healer that's not Warden.
So I like those points. I think part of the reason why I would put the Sorc down in C is like when I think of all of the classes in terms of unique buffs, right? We already know the Warden's got the minor toughness. The Sorc provides minor prophecy, right? Which is strictly unique to that class. But are you actually using or providing that buff when you play a Sorc, Shoddy?
Yes.
What are you using? Oh, do you actually running Dark Deal on yours?
Yeah, so the when I played Sorc, I had a lot of stamina recovery because I didn't run quite like a large stamina pool. So a large stamina recovery was important.
Mm-hmm.
That doubled over as a means of converting that recovery into extra magicka, which also procced that passive in turn. So
the minor intellect?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was kind of like a multi-tier way of being useful.
Yeah. Doesn't the Sorc also do minor intellect and minor endurance, like AoE, for the group?
It might be in the kit. I don't know if I focused on that.
You know what, let me actually... But that might be... I know that was a change that they did recently. Let me actually take a look real quick.
So I played Sorc Healer probably 2-3 patches ago. Yeah, so it may have been changed that.
It's the one that gives... Is it Daedric Summoning? Empowered Ward?
Oh, if it's on a Warden, then you definitely are using it.
Yeah, also grants minor intellect, minor endurance to you and nearby allies, increasing your magicka and stamina card by X amount. Okay.
Yeah, that's the one you're talking about. But
yeah, but that wouldn't come with the minor prophecy because that only comes from dark magic. So
yeah, use Dark Deal, the one that consumes stamina. Or no.
Dark Conversion,
yeah. Yeah, so I used that to use some of that extra stamina I had in order to just keep pumping out heals. Because, like, you know, I may have not had the craziest mag recovery, but I could just constantly keep getting mag back while healing with that, too. And then just keep slamming the bird. One thing about a Sorc Healer that is important to note is it's not going to have as many heal over times as a Warden, and it's important to note that what you're really being is a good CC, a good ultimate, and also having a strong AoE multi-target burst heal.
You know, I think so. I guess the main point what I don't like about the Sorc is the burst heal, because it can affect 2 people. In addition, plus the bird itself, which is fine, but the bird can be killed, and you have to channel it to get it back. So that's kind of like my only real negative on it, and I feel like minor prophecy, it's not as valuable as, say, like a minor sorcery, right, or a minor brutality, a straight damage increase buff.
Well,
but a crit chance buff is super useful too.
Crit chance is pretty useful because, especially for a healer, because your heals are 50% stronger every time you crit, whereas that 2% weapon damage may only increase your actual heals by 2 or 3%.
Yeah.
But another thing to point out is that crit, all of your abilities now scale off your highest crit, regardless if it's the physical variant or the spell variant. So it doesn't matter that, like, you know, you're with a bunch of, you know, stamina buddies, right? And you're giving them spell crit. So long as their spell crit ends up being higher than their physical crit, that's actually benefiting them.
Okay, I will acquiesce, and I'll leave Sorc over here.
I think the reason I like Sorc decently is because it's doing more than just healing. And where all of the other healers are just miles below and weaker than Warden, the Sorc at least stands out in a different way.
Yeah.
Other than just healing.
Because it does have a lot of utility that it offers between offensive utility with Streak as well as Negate, which is huge. Especially in the high MMR gameplay. You throw Negate down, that'll be the deciding factor whether you can actually kill the other team or not. Whoever negates whoever has a negate will probably win. And then if there's 2 Sorks on opposite teams, then whoever negates second, I think, wins or something like that. Something ridiculous.
Wow. Yeah, so it starts to get weird with multiple Sorks, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay, all right. I will acquiesce. I'll leave Sork over here. Okay. The DK. No, I might put that right there, to be honest.
I'm going to let you have the argument on the DK first, since you've played DK healer and I have not.
I'm kind of memeing right here. It probably goes down to C.
I still got to defend it for going in the C.
Oh man, it's tough, right? Because the DK heals. All right. In terms of utility, what does the DK offer? A lot of shields. Unfortunately, shields get 50% nerfed, so there's already a lot less value you're offering there. It does offer minor brutality, which is a unique thing, and I think most PvPers tend to be stamina based or weapon damage based as opposed to magicka based. But I guess with hybridization, that doesn't really matter anymore. But it'll still boost your weapon damage over spell damage, so it's kind of up in the air with that. In terms of actual healing capability, probably the only worthwhile heal is Cauterize, but that doesn't compare as a acceptable burst heal when you look at the Wardens, Polar Winds, the Twilight Matriarch, Honor the Dead, Healthy Offering, or Resistant Flesh. It's at the bottom. It doesn't compare to those. And the only ability that it has to compare is Obsidian Shard, which is a projectile that you have to hit an enemy with, which will affect 2 of your teammates within a 28-meter radius. So the 28-meter radius is solid, but that healing projectile can be dodged, so it's not even reliable. And if you're being attacked by somebody where all the other classes can just, tap that burst heal and be good, you have to somehow, while you're running away, turn around, face your attacker, and hit them with the burst heals and kind of stand your ground, which kind of sucks. So when you look at it like that, like the healing output, well, let me also throw in the Cinderstorm, which it's a great snare component, right? 70% snare, so it has a lot of utility there. But the heal, PvP is very mobile, so unless you're doing some sort of weird objective thing, which, I don't know why people are playing objectives anyway, but if you want to throw it in front of a door or something like that to slow people down, it has a lot of utility there. So heal-wise, as a class, it's not that good at all. Defensive capability, the probably cool parts about the DK are it does have a natural 10% block mitigation that comes with the class, and the Battle War passive, which allows you to restore resources. It's essentially a free tri-potion whenever you cast your ultimate. So I know with my 1-bar healer builds, the DK is actually the S-class, I'll say, the S-class no-class healer.
Right. I was going to say,
yeah.
There for a while, you was not convincing me at all, and you was like, I was just going to say, I thought you was making an argument for it to stay in C tier, not for you to make a new tier and put it in F tier.
Well, that's the thing. When you were talking about the Sork, I was like, like a lot of my thought processes are based on like the 1-bar setup, and I don't like the Sork for the 1-bar setup. But the DK, if you remove all the DK abilities, the DK class has really solid passives that make the 1-bar setup really good if you want to run a class that doesn't use any actual class abilities, right? So in that context, it's literally S class. But because we're talking about regular stuff, overall, it's
an important note is that we're looking at it from not just a 1-bar perspective, but also a 2-bar perspective, and we have to compare both of those at the same time, rather than just like one versus the other.
Yeah, so this is an all-encompassing thing, and overall, man, it just sucks. It's really just it hurts my heart because I want the DK to be good. And I think if I was going to bump the DK up to B tier and actually make it viable, I've said this a bunch of times on some of my videos, but the only change I would make is change Obsidian Shard to function similar to how the Necro Burst Heal or the Nightblade Burst Heal functions, where it's a conal type of thing, and when that heal hits somebody, it puts a damage shield on that target, right? So the Necro provides extra added resistances for the target. The Nightblade gets minor mending for the target for themselves. So why not just give a shield to that target and yourself, let's say, the people that get healed by the burst heal. I think that alone, giving it an actual burst heal that will be comparable to the other classes and is reliable, you know, that would be the only change I would make to make a DK healer be legit, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah. But until that happens, stays at the bottom.
Yeah. I won't contest the C tier. I mean, you made your point in the past about how it was decent on the one bar no class setups, so I'll leave that be.
Yeah. Like the DK class is the best healer when you don't use any of the DK abilities. Which is sad.
When you cut out all the class abilities and you're just using
the passives,
non-class stuff in the passes, the DK comes out on top.
Yeah, and I think because of that, I'll put it in C instead of D. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Necro. So I think it used to be up on the top a little bit, but definitely above the DK. But I don't know if I'd even put it. If I put it in B tier, it would be behind the Sorc, or maybe in C tier after the. No, I'm gonna put a C tier. I don't think the Necro has any value as a healer anymore, unless you're talking about. Oh, you know what, man? Maybe I changed my mind. Because it's got, in terms of buff potential, it doesn't compare like the other classes, but. What the hell's that? The CC one called? Let me go check it here. It's the one that they throw the hands out. Do you know?
It's like the grasping something.
Yeah, that one. Let me just.
Ghostly Embrace or the other morph of it.
Yep, that's it. Ghostly Embrace. This, oh my goodness, I love this ability so much. So I think because of that ability, I'll at least put it on the B tier, but behind the Sorc. But other than that,
Ghostly Embrace is probably a lot weaker than Streak, but yeah.
Oh yeah. Because I mean, Streak is a hard stun, but you know it gives you utility. It gives you gap closing utility in so many crazy ways. And I think on a healer, I would much prefer them to have soft CCs than hard CCs, because I feel like hard CCs would be better used on a damage dealer so that they can actually time their burst instead of me just, you know, free stunning everybody, and it's like, we can't kill everybody, stop stunning all the time, you know? Yeah.
So Necro, if this wasn't before they nerfed the
Spirit Mender, yep.
Yeah, if they hadn't nerfed that, I would say that Necro's A tier.
Mm-hmm.
But I would agree that Necro is probably B tier because of that nerf.
Mm-hmm.
With that in mind, Necro's actually still okay for a 2-bar build, because you've got things like the totem, and you can supply your teammates. Again, this is kind of a utility healer. You can supply your teammates with synergies like the totem, like the grave robber. You can even use an offensive ult to debuff them, make them receive more damage if you want. Or you could go on the other side of the spectrum. Say you're playing in Cyrodiil, you can use the resurrection ult to get your teammates back up.
Mm-hmm.
Without actually having to stand there and be vulnerable while channeling a res. It has enough utility to make it justified as potentially, say, like, again, I'll use the Cyrodiil example because this is probably where it would shine the most. If you're on a large group and you want 2 healers instead of 1, it would make a good secondary healer, where their focus is not just healing, but also being supportive in other utility-like scenarios, like synergies and the resurrection ult.
Ooh, you know what? That actually makes a good point, and maybe I should change the title of the video to something like, what the tier list for the best secondary healer. Right? Because say we run a 6-man squad, right? Which is kind of what we prefer to run. You're going to usually have 2 healers and then 4 damage dealers. So one of them, your main, would probably definitely be a Warden. And then now your second one, who's going to be, which class makes the best secondary healer? So in that context, the Necro's looking pretty good right now.
Yeah. It's pretty on level with the Sorc.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the Sorc would be more offensive and the Necro is more defensive in a way. Necro still has great poppers, so that's offensive in its own.
Yeah, and probably you'd have a damage dealer running a Necro, right? So they can really lay the burst on more effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it still has its place, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. I think, nothing else really to say about the Necro. The Nightblade. Where would I even put this?
Let you think on that one for a minute.
It's obviously in front of the DK, but where on the B tier list? Would I put it below? Well, see, here the thing is, the Nightblade, it's got that crit bonus buff, right? But I don't think nobody really tries to prioritize that because, let me go over here to the Nightblade one.
So the problem with the Nightblade crit buff is, as a healer, you're basically never going to proc that.
Yeah, because I think you have to have like an assassination skill slotted, right?
No, you have to deal critical physical damage.
It says dealing critical damage grants you and your group minor savagery for 20 seconds.
That is inaccurate.
It is.
So, yes. So one of my first healers, or actually my first healer was a Nightblade. And that passive does not activate unless it is physical critical damage. So light and heavy attacks from your resto staff won't work.
So it's got to be like any of the two-handed weapons, and the sword and board would proc it, and a bow?
Yeah, pretty much.
Interesting.
Okay, I will say that I'm pretty sure that it's physical damage. I know that resto didn't proc it. I think my sword and board did. So that's why I've come to that conclusion that it is physical.
Okay, interesting.
And the only way I was able to proc it, if I really wanted it, was to put a poison on my sword and shield, and occasionally just light weave people with the sword and shield and get the poison to try and crit, so that I could get the passive for people. But otherwise, you don't really get the passive, so It's not really that useful for that. If I had to put a place,
I think I'm gonna put it there. I'm gonna put mine there.
Mine, I would probably put the Sorc in C tier, right in front of the DK.
You would put the Sorc in C tier?
Not Sorc, sorry, the Nightblade.
Oh, okay, you put it down there.
Yeah, that's where I would put it. I don't think it doesn't have any useful utility. I guess you could say you could do things like fears to debuff people, but
yeah, because I think it's mass hysteria. Yeah, it's actually really good because you don't even need to get the stun to proc to apply the major cowardice, and having the ability to reduce weapon and spell damage by 430, that's essentially removing your major courage if you even have it. That's a lot.
It's decent. I think the utility from the other two healers that we've talked about is superior still, though, and I don't think it justifies B tier.
What about? Go ahead.
The healing ult is pretty decent, but I don't know if it's better than Life Giver anymore.
Why do you say that? Because I know in the past, Shoddy, in our discussions offline or maybe even online here, you'd swear by this. Well, are you changing your opinion and no longer willing to lay your life on the line for this ability, for this ult?
Well, The 0.5 does sometimes make a difference, but
Aha!
I think another thing that bothers me is the cost is starting to get into the realm of inconvenience as well.
Okay, I'm happy right now, by the way. The fact that you just acknowledged that 0.5, which is the whole reason why I hate using this ability, I'm good. We can close the video right now.
I mean, to be fair, it is still useful to slot on the Nightblade just because of the passives that it gives, but...
Yeah, the 3%, I think.
It gives, like, extra HP or extra healing done.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, so it's still useful. It's just that occasionally it can be an inconvenience, similar to how the bird on Sork can be an inconvenience.
So, since you just acknowledged that ultimate being less or being on the same level where I always thought about it, I will change my position and put Nightblade in C tier.
Well, I mean, so
I was giving it more credit because I was like, Shadi always hypes this up, and the big heal is really, really useful, and it's got all these wonderful things. It's got a synergy. It gives you major vitality, all these other wonderful things. But
to be fair, if Restol is the best healing ultimate, that's still probably the second best healing.
Oh yeah, no, that's fine. I'm fine with that. Saying that it's the best second heal, no problem.
Yeah.
But no, I'm fine putting Nightblade down here.
It should be noted for both Nightblade and Necro, but their healing, and this is going to be a theme for most of these classes, is that the class burst heal is not particularly impressive just because it is single target. Now, yes, it does give minor mending for the Nightblade and extra armor on the Necro, and both of those are useful, but ultimately hitting multiple targets is still better overall, and that's where Polo Wind comes in. That's where Blessing of Restoration comes in, which is a classless ability, but that also takes identity away from the classes, and not really something that we'll be talking about today.
Right. I will say with the Nightblade, since Oaken Soul already gives you minor mending, I do kind of like using Shrewd Offering instead, because there would be no other reason to use it except until they made that Oaken Soul change. So it's not too bad. It's all right, but
I feel like in the realm of decent, and when you're comparing it to other classes, decent doesn't really cut it. But anyways, I think we pretty much...
Yeah, I'm okay with this setup here. All right, and the best for last, boom.
Is that what you seriously think?
Let me pull up my sleeves for this one. So, honestly, let me stop laughing for 2 seconds. So, minor sorcery, I think, is super useful. Okay, right? The 10% bonus for spell damage is, I think, very appreciative for everybody in the group. The general heals that the Templar uses they're really friendly for all players, right? Especially when you're starting the game. Templar, it's not the best because we know Warden's the best, but it's really honestly easy to throw up huge ass numbers, which I know the numbers don't really matter, but if you wanted to get high numbers and just throw out a bunch of crazy heals like crazy, the Templar can do this just as easy as the Warden. Okay, and one of my favorites if we're just going to look at all these burst heals we'll say, ignore the Sork for now because it's not really comparable, but with the Templar, the Necro, and the Nightblade burst heals, okay, they're all conal, but if we take a look at the Templar here, I should have already had it on the Templar while I was doing my little talk, because I know we disagree on this particular bit, Shadi, for the burst heal, but the main reason why I like Honor the Dead so much, it's not about the Magicka regen. It's literally the radius and the target. It is a cone, but it's a 28 meter wide cone, if you would. Whereas with the Nightblade and the Necro, it's finite. Well, I guess it's all technically finite, but yeah, they're just smaller. They're just a smaller target window for the Nightblade and the Necro. Okay, and to me, that matters more, right? Because all these tier lists, they're all subjective, right? They don't really matter at the end of the day, because everyone's going to rank these classes to their particular opinions. And why I like the Templar above the Necro and Nightblade, at least, is for that burst heal. Honor the Dead is so smooth casting it, and I could always rely on it to hit the person that I need. Whereas with the Necro and Nightblade, I have to make sure that I'm close enough for them to actually get the heal off. That's kind of it. And I will also say, yes, I think it's kind of goes with a lot of the classes, but a lot of the class passives, well, mostly with the Templar, you need to use. You need to actually use all of these abilities, especially, I think, what is it? Lightweaver? Lightweaver's not that bad. But some of them, a lot of the class passives, they emphasize using class abilities to really get the most out of it. So if you want to make the most out of your Templar, you are going to have to use a lot of these abilities. But when you're running, say, Oakensoul in this case, right? Ignore this setup here, but I'd probably throw definitely Honor the Dead on for sure, and then maybe squeeze on. You know what? I'd have to do one of these setups here. This is probably how I would run it. And then if I'm feeling risky for the biscuit, just throw on Practice Incantation. Ignore that, and then just throw my standard stuff there. That's probably pretty much how I would run it. So I can hit the Living Dark, which will apply my Minor Sorcery passive, and then my Burst Heal Honor the Dead, which is super solid, and then Practice Incantation. I don't really recommend this. They did change it so you can move with it, but Life Giver is always going to be the best option. But if you're using this, just be wary that you can still be immobilized while you're casting this thing. And it kind of can cancel prematurely if you're, say, jumping off of a cliff and your cast this ability, and then the dodge roll that you'll naturally do as part of the animation will cancel this ability. So just keep that in mind. Okay, my pitch is done.
All right, time to unravel it. First off, we're not pitching a noob guide for easy healers to play. This is best healers, and being the best doesn't always mean being easy. Mm-hmm. So none of that matters. So another thing is that so a lot of the class passives don't work for the Templar. You look at its minor protection, doesn't work. You look at most of the healing ones, doesn't apply to any of the abilities that you're actually going to be using. The only ones that's going to apply to is Honor the Dead, which I think is trash. Because
that's fine.
It has no good secondary effect. It doesn't give you minor mending, but which Templar gets that anyways, but it doesn't give you anything useful. It doesn't give like extra armor to the target. It's a little bit of extra regen. It's okay, but you should already be building for that.
Can I rebuttal that?
Go ahead.
So yes, the Necro gives resistances, and the Nightblade, it will boost, say, your first heal will be normal, but then all your subsequent heals will be more than the first one, right? Because of the minor mending bonus. But in the context of Oakensoul, I know that we're speaking generally here, but with Oakensoul, the minor protection doesn't matter. And with the added sustain that you get, you can technically cast more Honor the Deads, which would probably equate to the same amount of, say, extra heals that you could cast with the Nightblade, right? You get more quantity with the Templar with burst heals than you would with the Nightblade. And I'd argue the same thing with the Necro.
Maybe in the case of the Necro, but probably not the Nightblade, since the Nightblade ability cost is like 900 magic or less.
It does? Let me check that.
It's like 900. It's pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
Even when not counting the morph that you prefer. Now, if you talk about the morph that you prefer, then it's a much different stratosphere of cheap.
Yeah, it's 27 versus 32, and the Honor of the Dead is 39. Oof.
Yep.
But honestly, it doesn't even feel that bad. Like it feels bad when you're running Breath of Life. This one sucks. But
the thing is that that benefit to Honor the Dead is useful when you're not spamming the ability. But you just mentioned that you want to spam it. But it is actually most beneficial when you don't spam it, because you don't stack that regen that you get, because you have to be healing them. I think healing the person under a certain amount to get the regen. Go back to the Templar real quick.
Yep.
I don't remember how that Honor the Dead. Just Honor the Dead.
So Honor the Dead, anybody below 17% restores 18% of the ability's cost.
So that does not stack. You can't get multiple instances of that. So really you want to be casting this ability once or twice and then letting that regen flow back in. But in the instance that you gave me, the example that you gave me, that doesn't really work. If you're spamming it, you're not benefiting from that passive nearly as much as you should be.
Right. But equally, you're not really spamming it, right? But if you needed to, it's not that bad.
Well, whenever I have tried building or going to the editor and looking at a Templar build, it always felt awkward and useless. Another thing about the Templar that makes it bad is that it's not a utility healer. It doesn't have the utility that the others, like the Sorc or the Necro, has. There's no resurrections. There's no streaks or negates. The best you got is just the Purge. That's it.
So in terms of burst heals, I would keep my Templar here. In terms of utility, as you're saying, yeah, I'd probably put it back there.
I still don't think the burst heal is even a redeemable quality either.
That's my favorite part. But also in terms of utility, right? Say this was a tier list for secondary healers, then the Templar, I have to have one less heal on my bar. Thing. Like I have to have a selfish ability to proc a thing for the group, as opposed to running. I mean, I guess I could run Power of the Light or something. So
that's so weird, though.
Yeah, that is kind of weird.
Another thing is about the whole extra spell power. The problem with that is that most people, whether they are magic or stamina, actually use weapon damage enchants, because there are more DKs than there are Templars. Templars are pretty useless when it comes to damage dealers now, and they're pretty useless at being healers too, so there's basically no more Templars. So if you're not a DK or a Templar and you want to, synergize with somebody, you're much better off putting your enchants as weapon damage, so that if you play with a DK, you'll get that extra 10%, and it's much more likely that you'll be playing with a DK than it is a Templar. So most people will be using the wrong damage type for you to buff them. So it's not that useful. In fact, that is a selling point for the DK over.
Whoa! Let's not get crazy now.
I mean, to be honest, Templar I think is pretty useless for 2-bar builds, and you said it yourself that the DK, you like the DK.
No,
well,
I'm not doing that. I'm not putting it down there.
I would put Templar at least in C tier somewhere. I don't think that it can stack up to the Necro or the Sorcerer.
It's either going in the front of C or in the back of B.
Well, it has to be in the front of C then.
Am I okay with this?
I don't think it can be in the same tier as the Necro or the Sorcerer. They actually have redeemable qualities about them that the other classes cannot replicate beyond just being a healer.
All right. I will acquiesce to this because in the context of like high MMR, small scale gameplay, right? Secondary healer, Templar, ain't gonna cut it.
No.
Yeah.
It's not doing anything. That's the
Yeah.
problem.
Whereas like with these two, you got Negate, which is huge, Streak, which is huge. You got the Grasp, which is huge. You got the Colossus, which is huge. You got the Reanimation ult, which is huge. You got a lot of other a lot of other abilities that you could use that would benefit the team there. And then with this,
you got.
That's not that way. Oh, I gotta fix it. All right, there you go.
You got Purge. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean Purge is still pretty good, but I mean they did kind of make changes to Purge, right? Where you can't cleanse everything anymore. It just is very specific now. So even that kind of lost some value.
Oh, that got nerfed.
Yeah.
D tier class.
Yeah, it won't remove dots anymore. It'll just remove like status effects.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna compromise with you with it being in the front of C tier, but
I'm like, oh shit, did I say too much?
I mean, I'll be honest. It could very well fit as the only D tier, in my opinion. I don't think it's better than the Nightblade, especially when it comes to 2-bar. Maybe 1-bar, but not in 2-bar. And then you already said that the DK is better than it when it comes to 1-bar, and
for no class healer. For no class, DK is the best. But
okay, how about this then? The no class DK versus the class Templar. Who wins?
It depends how many class abilities I'm using on the Templar. If I'm using Life Giver, okay. If this is my Templar setup, right, where I'm running, here, let me.
Your best Templar setup versus your best DK setup. The Templar can use class and non-class. The DK will use its non-class because it doesn't have any useful class abilities.
Lol.
Which one wins? And the fact that you're hesitating.
No, I'm not hesitating. I'm allowed to pause and collect my thoughts for a second.
The fact that you have to collect your thoughts.
Listen, you. The only change, here's the funny part, right? This would be my probably best Templar setup here. And when you look at the DK, you're only going to change what? You're going to put Illustrious Healing here, and you're going to put Blessing of Restoration there. That would be the only difference.
Okay, here's the thing, though. Illustrious is more useful to your team, and it gives you mag recovery. Oh, wait, you're using the wrong one. But anyways.
I mean, I do like this one over the other one. But, I mean, it doesn't really matter.
Anyways, and Blessing is a better heal than Honor the Dead. I think Blessing is the second best burst heal in the game, right behind Polo Win.
Yeah, but you see that 28 meter cone versus a 12 by 10
single target. It also, yeah, I mean, it gives armor as well.
I mean,
Blessing of Restoration gives armor in an AoE, and it also heals more than one target. It heals as many targets as you can hit, in fact. So, even though this is not a secondary healer tier list, if we were talking about secondary healers, you know which one of the two are going to be better? It's going to be Blessing of Restoration. I mean...
You know what?
I don't see the Templar being able to outperform the DK even.
Listen. This is my show, and you're the co-host. And before we're at the 50-minute mark, Shawty, okay? We're gonna end this video in the next minute or two because the more we talk, the worse this is gonna get. I might have to put this in D tier if we go for another 10 minutes. But I don't want that to happen. I want to maintain my innocence because Honor of the Dead is my favorite.
How about we leave it to everyone who watches it, and then they can put their opinions in.
Okay, all right. So I like this setup the way it is here, right? The 1, 2, 3, okay? Mm-hmm. But if you guys made it, this far, okay, where would you put the Templar? All right? Would you agree with me and leave it here? Or do you agree with Shoddy and put it down there? Let me know in the comments below. And would you like to say anything else, Shoddy?
No, I'm good. Templar D tier, please.
Please no. All right. And in the wise words of Mr. Beast, bye.